the reason I'm focusing on him and this opera, whether you like it or not, is because Akhenaten may have been the first monotheist. You familiar with that at all? Yes, some? Maybe. He overthrew the other gods. He was the pharaoh. And his job, in fact, it's kind of neat if you look at the way the various temples are arranged along the Nile. They're set up to basically track the sun as it evolves over the year. And the Pharaoh's job was to travel from one site to the next to be there for the sun's arrival, at the point where the visual effect of the sun over that temple was perfect, so that, he was there in time for that one, and then he would be at the next one and the next one, as the sun, of course, moved. Kind of like Stonehenge, except each of these were for one specific, period of time that we've figured out, at least, anyway. And so his job was basically to attend each of these major ceremonies that were really important to the priests of those temples. And at some point, Akhenaten decided that none of these other gods were important. Instead, only one, Aten, was the only god. And this is kind of neat. So many consider him to be the first monotheist, because he did away with the other gods. Didn't last for very long, though, because the Egyptians, it screwed up their economy all along the Nile, because all the other temples were basically cut out of their income. And so probably a lot more complex than that too, because the income was also taxes that were also distributed to the people. So it really was a mess, and eventually caused him to be overthrown and killed. Maybe he died, and they overthrew his religion, but it seems like they actually killed him and put Tutankhamun, his son, on the throne to replace him, and they brought back the other gods. So it was a short-lived monotheistic experience. And some, like Freud, in talking about Moses, the Egyptian, thought Moses might have been one of the priests for Akhenaten and led the followers of Akhenaten away. And of course, we also think of that as the Hebrews leaving Egypt, slaves leaving Egypt, and moving that monotheistic religion north. But that's all hypothesis. Can't really prove it.
Those are snakes.
Their hands.
I realized that when they zoomed in on it, but when they were first coming down, there's snakes coming out of the sun. I'm really confused. That's good.
A lot of these prayers, actually, I think it mentions that you find it in the Psalms and things. So the Egyptian prayers. So I suppose the best way of looking at it from a contemporary perspective is to think of religion as just like science, evolving as we understand more and more about the nature of the universe and what we call the divine. And at this point, the sun is actually pretty obvious. Of all the different things in the universe, the sun is really the most important.
I think we should go back to worshiping the sun.
Some people go to Hawaii. So if you're interested, just look up Akhenaten. This is an opera by Philip Glass. And Philip Glass is clearly one of those composers that takes a little bit to get used to. I don't know if you would call him a minimalist, but how come there's no, usually Wikipedia's right away at the top. What happened? I'm not giving us oh, there we go. So if you're interested in Philip Glass at all, or not, but he's a living composer. And as I mentioned, he's done a religion trilogy, but so that's Philip Glass if you're interested. If you visit the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Art and Archaeology, maybe it's archaeology and anthropology, I forget, or art and anthropology, you could say. Of course, the thing is, I wrote that, and if I was wrong, that's wrong. That's how the internet is. As Abraham Lincoln says, you can't trust everything you read on the internet.
Just like he was the first man on the moon.
Was he?
Yeah.
I
I read that on the internet.
I've seen him on that round penny, and now that I think of it, wow, now I recognize, the moon. And this is a little video I made when I visited there. And as you can see, that's Akhenaten. By the way, he was misshapen. That's actually supposed to be true to his form. I tried to figure out what was wrong with him. I made these videos thinking if you wanted to look in more detail at any particular scene, like there's the hands, you could just freeze, pause it and look at them. But so the scenery that they adopted for the Met performance of Akhenaten clearly has, historical connection, as does the whole theme of the opera. I mean, that's as far as we know, very about as accurate as you could get when you're talking 4,000 years ago, roughly. So, but this museum, by the way, was one of the museums my mother used to walk me to when I was between 1 and 3 years old. So I don't know if I remember it or what, but the weirdest feeling comes over me when I go into these places, and I just feel like I've been here before. It's one of those things. Just the echoes, the way the room sounds with all the people all, and then the mummies have been just lying there, pretty much in their glass cases, pretty much since I was a kid. Whoops, where'd I go here? Sorry about that. But I've made a video of the entire place. It's just I did it very quickly with the idea that you could just look at the videos and pause them if you wanted to like read the. I don't know if you really could do that or not. My camera was pretty crappy and my skills are pretty crappy, obviously. But so there you go. Lots of stuff. One of them was it's a cast, so this is not the actual original code of Hammurabi. But when you enter the main door of the museum, it's on the left, and it's bigger than a person. It's pretty, and so you can see what the code of Hammurabi is considered by many. I don't know if they've passed this or not as the first code of laws. And there were 450 laws on the tablet, and some were pretty specific. If you're the architect and you build.
That Chicago has its very own island in the heart of the city. That's right.
So if you're an architect and you build a house and the house falls on the owner's daughter, then you owe him your daughter. If it falls on his wife, then you owe him a wife. If it kills the owner, then your penalty is death. And very specific kinds of things of that sort. 450 of them, way more than 10. So pretty interesting. Okay. Now, reason I'm starting on this is as last week we touched briefly on Plotinus, and this is. By the way, I should mention the MIT site that wasn't working last week. I did get an email from the librarian, and it's kind of the site's been removed, but it was backed up, and it's on the Wayback Machine. If you feel like looking it up, and so they sent me the link, and so I went to it, and so you could go to it's a slightly different address, and that's pretty much all that's really important. So I haven't gone through all the links though and reassigned them to that's pardon?
That's a lot of work to like reassign.
It is. Well, I've made this website starting in 1995, and the last time I checked, there were like 10,000 pages because I was really lazy. Whenever I wanted to make a new page, I just new page, and just connected them. And some of them aren't even connected, but either way, it was way cheaper actually than printing paper and handing paper out to students, especially to the ones that I had that were on distance learning back then. Instead of sending paper via snail mail to people all over Alaska, I just posted them here and actually made a CD even of all the links I wanted them to have, so I could just send them a CD for free. They were so cheap. Then the university said, no, you can't give them that. You have to charge them for it. And I was like, well,
We want your money.
but if I charge them for it, then I'm guilty of plagiarism and making money off of and so I couldn't do that. So that was the end of that. But by then, more and more people around the state started having internet, so that they could actually go and just look at the site, whatever. But so Plotinus, I mentioned that one of his teachers was Ammonius Saccas, and Ammonius Saccas, at least for a while, was Christian. Notice where, if we think of Plotinus, I should have put up his web page. You prefer the Stanford Encyclopedia? Sure, why not? Okay. You like my website?
The one that you're just on, that's on,
You mean this one?
Silvers, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Wikipedia is wicked. I mean, in a good sense. That's a Harry Potter joke, I suppose. You know, they've learned. You know, it's a democratic encyclopedia. People have voted basically on what they like and so on. And you know, there's actually an easier version of the English on Wikipedia on a lot of the pages for people that have trouble with English. So, for example, if you go to Sarah Palin Wikipedia, just an example, no specific reason that I picked on Sarah, but if you go to Wikipedia and you look at Sarah Palin's site, one of the things you could go to, it used to be easier than this. They changed, this is different. I wanted the English. If you go down to watch it be. Everything keeps changing. It's not fair. America. Okay.
Simple English.
Simple English. That's what I was looking for. So notice you can go to Simple English. It's not available on all the Wikipedia pages. Well, I haven't checked, but at the time that I checked, there were plenty of pages that didn't have a simple English version, and I just thought that was kind of cool. But so I'm a fan. I was a fan right from the get-go because I like the idea of democracy. A lot of university folks were upset with Wikipedia, just as they are now with ChatGPT and the other ones that are coming out. These are tools. Boy, learn how to use the tools and see what you can do with them, because it's going to be interesting. So I mentioned that he was the Neo-Platonist, so he's a follower of Plato, but he upgraded it somewhat. And frankly, I think an important part of that is the connection with Christianity. And what we'll see is that Christianity is also connected with Platonism. And we'll see that especially when we get to St. Augustine. And the phrase, the question that is frequently asked is, what's the connection between Jerusalem and Athens? Jerusalem is thought of course, as the very religious center, and Athens, reason. Right. So you know, what's the connection? How do they go? And quite frankly, the connection is the early view or the early dogma of Christianity is Platonic. That's the connection. And why? Well, Jesus was Jewish. Yes, everyone realizes that. It's not offensive to anyone, I hope. You know, it's just true. Christianity is considered by many to be a Jewish sect because it's a breakaway religion from the Orthodox Jewish religion. And the Jewish religion, of course, is considered quite old, going back to Abraham. And so it's an Abrahamic religion, right? And by the way, Islam is also, but Islam doesn't begin officially till 650 AD, because Muhammad is the one who begins Islam. Although he's referring to Islam as like Abraham's religion, so he's saying I'm bringing back the original, right? Essentially. Although, as we'll see, well, maybe I'll forget by then, but when we talk about Muhammad, he grew up in a village that had a sect of Jewish people who believed in Jesus as a prophet. So it was a Jewish sect